Thank you very much, everybody. I'm very delighted to be here talking to you about Etihad Rail, which I understand from speaking to some of you in the audience is a development that you're all eager to learn a little bit more about. I have the unfortunate task of having the last presentation today, so 10 minutes, we'll try to work with that. I'll also try to leave some time for some question and answers, actually. All right, let's all start with a fact that everybody knows, is that we're all very, very aware of the consequences of any failure in the food supply chain, whether it be through the logistics bodies, the regulatory bodies, the shippers, or the consignees. On the one end of the spectrum, failures could mean products can't be sold because although melted chocolate is quite delicious, no one really goes out to the supermarket looking to buy a melted chocolate bar. Then on the other end of the spectrum, then, for example, failure to freeze fish properly at a long enough interval can result in illness or potentially death for the consumer. The positive news about this is that all of it is preventable. Unfortunately for the food shippers, it does mean that it comes at an additional cost. And when it comes to costs, the cold, hard fact about your industry is that food is not getting any easier nor cheaper to produce. There's regulatory requirements will not loosen. And fierce competition today will mean that your margins will constantly be under tremendous amounts of pressure. So the question then is, how do you maintain this quality while keeping cost and margin pressure in check? Well, obviously, since I'm rail, the answer is, at least one of the answers could be rail, as most US shippers are finding out today. Intermodal rail, very specifically. So let me give you a quick overview of what we're building and how you stand to benefit from this. All right, so Etihad Rail is constructing a 1,200-kilometer network of railroad track across the UAE, deployed across 3 stages. Stage 1, the line over here in yellow, is already under construction. And we're actually planning to be operational at the end of 2013 for moving sulfur from the gas fields here in Habshan all the way to the port of Ruwais. And at the end of 2014, we anticipate to be able to move that sulfur from the gas fields here at Shah to the port of Ruwais. Now, unfortunately, unlike Klaus, I can't bring in a locomotive, and so I can't show you the train, but I can assure you the assets are on the ground. They are being tested as we speak, and pretty soon we'll be seeing, at the end of this year, locomotives running in this country. Stage 2, potentially the most complex, but of most interest to everybody here, we'll see the development of our intermodal product. So stage 2 will connect various centers, important centers, and gateways, such as Jebel Ali Port, Port Khalifa over here, industrial areas out in Abu Dhabi, such as Musafah, ICAD, Kizad, as well as Dubai. For the food sector, it's probably going to be Dubai Industrial City. That's set to be operational at the end of 2017. Additionally, we're deploying stage 3 here, mostly for the quarry business up north and connecting them to the rest of the network. That's anticipated to be ready by 2018. All right, so in addition to connecting the various emirates, we're also going to be part of a larger GCC network. Now, every GCC country has their Etihad Rail equivalent building their network. So from a UAE standpoint, the rail will extend this way. So to Oman via Al Ain over here, and via Saudi Arabia and the rest of the GCC through Guefat. When complete, this is the extended Saudi network. The rail will provide infrastructure that will provide you greater access to your key markets. Now, someone was talking about needing infrastructure. That's actually a very timely sort of comment to make. For some industries, such as the quarries up in the Northern Emirates. Having this kind of infrastructure here means that they can now actually access markets that they want to at a much more competitive rate through the network that we're providing, as well as the distribution centers that will be attached to the rail network. But beyond providing infrastructure and access, we'll be giving the market a little bit more tangible. Oops. All right. This is no secret. For those of you who live here and work here, the UAE does act as a hub for the region. In essence, the UAE is the distribution center for the region, which means that given that the large dependence on import, you have really two main options of getting your products to your customers. A mother vessel comes in, discharges in Jebel Ali, you take it to a feeder, let's say to Dammam, then you truck it out to Riyadh. A lot of other people do this. They bring it to Jebel Ali, discharge it in a warehouse, put it on a truck, send them off their merry way. The challenge here is, as everybody knows, is the border over here, right? Where people can expect up to 5-7 days waiting times at the border. I'm very pleased to announce, actually, that a couple of months ago, we've reached an agreement at the GCC rail and customs organizations that we're in on providing origin destination services. In essence, although we're not physically taking away the borders, we are rendering the borders extremely thin, meaning a lot of the inspection that used to happen at the borders will either happen at origin or at destination. So this means a lot of things. It means a lot less disruptions. So your cargo doesn't sit at the border waiting for something to happen. This means being able to get to, let's say, Riyadh in a day versus 7. Additionally, by moving the actual variability of the transit time, which today exists in the middle of your journey, we make a product that's a bit more predictable when it comes to transit time. And I come from an operational background, so for me, that means predictability. And predictability means you can plan around it, therefore it's going to be lower cost overall. The second thing we're delivering is these big North American-style intermodal trains. I think this is a BNSF train out in Phoenix. In shipping, size matters, and trains no exception. Each train carry about 260 TEU, right? Now, when you start doing the math of scale, this means that you're likely going to have a significantly lower per unit cost for the same distance when you compare this move versus one done by truck. Now, that one's a pretty easy one to do. Last but not least, a lot of the US shippers that we're observing, that we're reading about today, who are making the switch to intermodal in the US, they're making the switch not only because of the lower costs, the better transit time, but they're doing it because rail is now starting to offer them much better ability to do tracking and tracing, much more real-time information about the actual temperature in which their cargo is sitting in. And with advances in telemetry, they're actually able to remotely control the temperature in which their cargo is sitting. Now, it won't be any different from the services that we're offering in 2017. So, in conclusion, while rail has been used significantly in the bulk industry, we see an increasing trend towards a shift in containerizing food and perishables and moving them by rail. The preference, as we've seen, is not only simply about price, but a combination of faster transit time, more reliability, and not to mention the advanced traceability, tracking and tracing capability that some of the rail providers provide today. And given the heavy reliance on imports in this region, transport and logistics makes a lot of sense in terms of an area that shippers can look to explore in terms of identifying synergies and efficiencies and better cost savings. Thank you all for your time.
Thanks, Kendrick. Thank you.